Welcome everyone to the Viva Connections and SharePoint Framework bi-weekly sync. We have a super amazing agenda today. We have the latest updates on the SharePoint Framework. We have latest updates on community projects. We have picture time, so get yourself ready if you want to be part of this picture. And then we have awesome demos with two new presenters, two first-time presenters. So we have Reshmee, who's going to be talking about building a custom Instagram feed. And then we have Valeras Narbutas, who's going to talk about using a reusable IFramePanel control in your SPFx solution. And finally, we have Siddharth coming back for a demo on Viva Connections adaptive card extensions to display daily insights based on ChatGPT OpenAI API. That's a lot of acronyms. So I would love everyone to make sure that Reshmee and Valeras feel welcome because it's their first time presenting. Please give them the PnP community love that everyone always does. Awesome. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of initiatives that are available to you. And so the first thing is we have Power Platform and Microsoft 365 community videos. We also have a LinkedIn group for discussions. We have open source initiatives on GitHub. We have some sample galleries, and you can get all the sample galleries in one place by going to aka.ms/community/sample. And then we have all our open source initiatives and samples in one place. You can go to aka.ms/community/home to find out what's going on. Now, we have community calls going on, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community calls. The Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call is going to be going on a summer break in July. So the last is going to be on the 27th of June, and we'll be back on the 22nd of August. And then we have the Power Platform monthly call and the Office add-in monthly call. And then, of course, you can join us to the Microsoft and 365 and Power Platform community call bi-weekly until June 27th. And we have the Viva Connection and SharePoint Framework bi-weekly call. Now, if you want to get all the recurring invites for our community calls, you can go to aka.ms/community/calls, and we can't wait to see you. Now, speaking of the Microsoft 365 and Power Platform calls that are hosted by and run by Microsoft speakers, our next one is on June 6th at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So you're going to have, again, everything from the horse's mouth or the warrior horse's mouth, the latest news from Microsoft Engineering on Microsoft 365 and Power Platform topics. We're going to, of course, have our community together mode photo. And then Mark Windle is going to talk about introduction to Microsoft Syntax repository system. Luca Bandinelli is going to talk about introduction to bot framework powered Viva connection cards. And Paolo Pialorsi is going to extend SPFx apps across Microsoft 365 using his Contoso Retail awesome app. And if you'd like to present on one of our community calls, we welcome everyone to present. Doesn't matter if it's your first time or if you're a long-time presenter, everyone is welcome. So go to aka.ms/community/request/demos to submit a request to present, and we can't wait to have you present. Now, if you'd like to know how to do all these cool contributions, we have something. David, you mind talking about that?
Oh boy, do we have something. So yes, we have Sharing is Caring. Now, this is a program that started a long time ago. Everybody is loving it, that's been part of it. What is it? It is safe space opportunities to learn more together. That means that we're going to join sessions live in Teams calls. We're going to accomplish tasks like contributing to GitHub if you've never done it, or perhaps setting up your SPFx developer workstation using some of those samples that are available. We know that it's been troublesome trying to get these scheduled lately, and we are working on that. We're getting everybody that wants to help out on board. So we're working through all those logistics right now. If you've let us know, thank you. We'll be getting back to you here soon and setting calls up to see who can assist with administering. They are absolutely free. They are safe space, which means they are not recorded. So definitely keep an eye out at ak.ms/sharingiscaring for the latest updates. Now, once you do contribute to the community, we want to recognize you for all the amazing work that you're doing. This is our recognition program powered by the community for the community, and it's powered by Credly. So a lot of us know that Credly that you get when you get Microsoft certified, or used to. They ended that. So we just want to make sure that everybody knows that this has not changed for us. The community recognition program is an independent relationship with Credly. We just renewed, in fact, and we're looking to create even more campaigns for everybody. New badges have just gone out yesterday for a bunch of community contributors, so thank you all. Definitely get signed up. We moved over to MailChimp to try to manage all of the registrations. So you just need you to opt in, ak.ms/community/recognition, and we will continue to track the amazing contributions you're doing and recognize you for them. Hugo, back to you.
I also say random words like MailChimp when my mind goes blank.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. To talk about the SharePoint framework and the latest from Microsoft Engineering, Microsoft Viva, Microsoft Teams, and SharePoint, here's Vesa Juvonen.
Are we going to talk about the MailChimp? I guess that's related. That's how we're so connected, well connected between each other. Exactly. No. Quick update on from an engineering side related on SharePoint framework. So 1.17.3 version went live yesterday, actually, yesterday evening in my time, Pacific time, morning time. We announced that, or social media pushed it out earlier today. It's basically 2 to 3 different bugs or small issues, which were not actually impacting anybody in 1.17.2 or so on. It's more on us fixing gradually things and getting it out there rather than waiting past the summer for 1.18 and all of that. Let's go to the following slide. This shows you the adoption curve, which is, by the way, amazing. It's mind-boggling to see how consistently SharePoint framework usage is growing worldwide. We have tens of millions of monthly active users for SharePoint framework on the custom components, of course, on the out-of-the-box components, which we use because we use SharePoint framework building those as well. Those have hundreds of millions of users. Now let's go to the following slide. Nothing too much dramatical on the roadmap slide at this point. I can't share too much news, but we're looking into now identifying what's in 1.18. That's going to be scheduled on the third quarter of this fiscal year, calendar year, which meaning between July and September. You can assume that that's in scale of that, so roughly in September. The new thing which is coming pretty soon is the bot-driven Viva Connection cards, and this is not taking over the SPFx Viva Connection cards. It's more as a new option for those partners and who have built already bot-driven capabilities, so they can use the same bot to power Viva Connection cards in the future. But that's a quick update from engineering side. Let's move on the open source side.
Awesome. Thank you.
Chimps again.
By the way, for those of you who don't know, in the speaker's notes during Vesa's slides, there's a speaker note that says, Vesa, whatever you do, don't read the speaker's notes. I don't know where that comes from, but
I don't read them, which is true. I don't do scripting or read notes.
These are not the notes you're looking for.
That's right. All right. So we have many open source initiatives, and again, we couldn't do it without the hard work of everyone in the community. And to celebrate the work of everyone in the community, let's talk about our first open source initiative with Julie Turner to talk about PnPjs.
Thank you, Hugo. We released version 3.16 on, 3.16 is to be released on June 9th. We have, as always, various documentation updates and fixes. There is a bug fix for a issue with a circular reference on the webs object that got introduced in 3.15. So that fix is in. So if you are experiencing that issue, you can go and use the nightly build in the meantime until 3.16 drops. That will get you over that hump. We have a fix for uploading files with apostrophes in the file name and fixing the field properties for multi-choice field creation. The other big thing that I wanted to announce or talk about or bring up is that we have just started way on version 4 planning. So there is a pinned issue 2678 that introduces the concept and links to a project planning board where Bo, Patrick, and I have put together all the things we could think of that might be useful to address in V4. So if you are interested in the project at all, even if you are not someone who feels they can contribute directly to the project, absolutely contribute your ideas. So go check out that issue, look at the planning board, look it over. If you have any feedback, comments, other ideas that aren't on that planning board, please put a comment in that issue 2678, and we will take it into consideration. And I've already mentioned it, but don't forget about those nightly builds. If there's ever an issue with the library, you see it's gotten fixed, it's been merged in. As soon as it's merged in, that next day, the V3 nightly build will have that update in it, and you can test it out. As always, follow us M365 PnPjs on Twitter. Back to you, Hugo.
Awesome. And I forgot that Bo was participating in PnPjs.
Oh,
I have to say,
Bo is killing it out there.
I know. Of all the people I've worked with, Bo is one of them. All right. So let's talk about the CLI for Microsoft 365 with Garry.
Thanks, Hugo. So yeah, it's end of the month, was end of the month. So we released a new version of CLI for Microsoft 365. So this is the 6.8 version. Tons of new commands that we've added into this release. A couple of things just to kind of highlight. We now have a AI assistant in the command line. So if you remember, we had the AI-powered search for our docs added about a month ago. The same technology is now available in the command line. So you can just ask the CLI questions and it will return the answers in the command line if you're ever stuck and you don't want to go to the docs. So we have that. We've also had a docs refresh as well. So if you go into the docs, you might see that it's slightly different. So we've updated the technology that we've used in our docs there. We have a tons more enhancements as well. So please check out the release notes, akms/CLI-M365/notes. You get all of the latest updates in there. One thing which I didn't mention on the slides is we have support for upgrading your SharePoint framework projects to 1.17.2, not quite 0.3 just yet, but that will be coming very shortly. So if you want to get hold of the latest version, use the @latest and the latest tags for npm and Docker. And if you are just excited about all the new features and you want to discuss CLI with like-minded folks, join the community on Discord, aka.ms/CLI-M365/Discord. Next slide. Okay, so again, end of the month, we have a new release of the Microsoft Graph Developer Proxy. So we've just released version 0.8. Included in this release, we have minimal permissions guidance. So this is a new feature where you can start recording all of the requests that your application makes to Microsoft Graph, and we will return you the minimal amount of permission scopes that your app needs to actually function correctly, which is great for auditing, just to make sure that you're not giving out too many permissions than actually needed. We've also introduced guidance for caching as well. So if you're making the same request multiple times, we might suggest that you implement some caching behavior in there. And we've also updated the throttling behavior. Now, what's going to come next month for the next release? Well, we are looking to rename the proxy. So we're going to rename to Microsoft 365 Developer Proxy because we do more than Graph. We do SharePoint Online as well as any API that you have. We're going to look into batching guidance, CI/CD support, and also Playwright integration for end-to-end testing. And we're looking at the end of next month for the next release. Back to you, Hugo.
Thank you. And so to talk about the SPFx reusable controls, we have two types of controls, right? The React controls, which are meant for the body of your web parts. And so we have on 4/19/2023, we released version 3.14 with SPFx 1.17.1 support. We also have the React property controls, which will go into property pane. So version 3.13.0 was released on the same date. Thank you for all the contributors who are helping. If you haven't used the reusable SPFx control, they're a great way to make your applications look professional because they actually implement controls that you don't have to build yourself. On the Viva Connections Toolkit for VS Code, Vesa. Last time I said Adam, last time I said Vesa.
Yes.
There you go.
Now it's okay. So the Viva Connection Toolkit for Visual Studio Code is an extension, a wrapper on top of the SharePoint Framework Human Generator. So for those who want to use this is actually on top of the Human Generator. It's kind of a uses Human Generator behind the scenes. And there is a general availability version out of this. So this is community-driven, community-created together with Microsoft and helping and doing an abstraction layer on top of the Human Generator. We're looking contributors here. We're looking feedback in here. It already integrates and helps the development enormously. So if you're not super familiar with Human Generator and all of the options there, have a look on this one. You can use samples and scenarios as starting point and all of those awesome stuff within the extensions. And we do have a nice set of videos explaining all of the features as well. That's it for this one. Please give us feedback.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, the PnP Modern Search, we have a version 4.9 coming soon. The beta release will be released this week. And again, we love to hear your feedback. And thank you to everyone for contributing. And I think Casper, thank you, everyone, for your help. On the SPFx samples, we have repositories for samples. We have extensions, web parts, adaptive card extensions. We love to see new samples. Please don't hesitate to submit your samples. And I have some samples that I need to actually share with you very shortly. But thanks, everyone. All right, so let's get started for our optional picture time. If you would like to show that you are here and you want to spread the love, there's your chance. And of course, we'll add more Mark Andersons by the magic of AI. All right. We're going to take a few more seconds.
It's the magic of AI. Few more seconds. Let's wait for 50 seats in a room, 50 seats in a room, selling out for final seats, 6 more seats left, 6 more seats, 6 more seats.
Last call.
Let's call. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And
all aboard.
Let's start. Yeah, exactly. And let's start the recording. 3, 2, 1. And let's do some hand waving, everybody. Thank you for joining once again. Awesome to have you on call. These are actually super fun to do always, even though they don't take too long, but great to have you in a call. And it's great to see the real people, not just the audio and videos behind the things. Excellent. And you even, yes, you people in the back row or third row, that somebody was waving himself there. So even me? Yes, even you. Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Let's jump back on the demos of today.
All right. So please, everyone, let's put a warm welcome together for Reshmee, who's going to be presenting about building a custom Instagram feed experience with SPFx. Reshmee, I believe, is your first presentation, so we are super excited to have you, and you can take over the screen.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, I'm audible and you can see my screen.
It's all yours.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so today I'm going to talk about how to get Instagram feed into SharePoint using SPFx. So a little bit about me. So my name is Reshmee Auckloo. I currently work as a software developer at a company called Pension Protection Fund. And I've been contributing to the community for a couple of years, and these are some of the awesome badges I've received. And yeah, this is my Twitter handle, so you can reach out anytime, even after the presentation or for any other things. The solution was originally developed by Kara, so that's why I got a slide about her. So it's based on her blog post, which is on Medium. So I'll put a link in there, and these are her contact details, which she kindly shared with me. So what I've done, so I've upgraded the solution from SPFx 1.11 to SPFx 1.16. So my approach was to start from scratch, scaffolding a new solution using the latest SPFx 1.16. Obviously, there's a new version, SPFx 1.17, but yeah, that was done like 3 months ago, and added all the libraries, ensuring the latest were being used using the npm install, and copied the web part code from the old solution to the new solution, and refactoring all the code to ensure compatibility with the latest library, as well using React hooks. And as many of you who have been upgrading solution to SPFx 1.16 or 1.14, you might have been faced with ES-linked warnings, which ensure code quality. So I've replaced use concrete types instead of any to prevent runtime errors and improve mintability, and replace loose equality with struct equality. So now demo time. So I'll show you how the solution is. So I've already got the solution loaded on the page, and what it has kind of a swiping effect. It's kind of showing the latest free feeds, and when you kind of scroll left or right with a swiping effect, you can go across all the posts that you want, and then you over each of the posts you have the caption from the Instagram, which get displayed, and then if you click on any of the posts, it's going to open it onto Instagram. Okay, let's have a look at some of the properties. So the most important property for that particular web part to work is a user token. And the user token, you need to have both an Instagram and a Facebook account to be able to generate the user token. So on the GitHub repository where the web part is, there's some instructions how you can generate the user token, and the rest of the property, like the name, account name, show Instagram account icon if you want to show the icon yes or no, and the layout 1/3 right is just to change the aspect ratio of the image. Here I've got a second web part, but just with the properties being filled, so to show the Instagram icon, and then here it's kind of changed the aspect ratio of the image to a bit smaller, and to display the username. Yeah, so that's and then if you click on one particular post, it will just open the Instagram post directly onto Instagram, where you can engage with a post if you need to. So now let's go back to the demo. Yeah, so in the code, the most important bit is the call to the Instagram endpoint. Here it's calling the endpoint graph.instagram.com, and I'm passing the user token I've set the web part property, and then based on the status of the call, I'm just calling a function to handle success and one to handle failure. And behind the scene, what it does is just set up the properties for any particular errors, or just load the feeds. And then I do have, if ever the status code is not 200 or 404, it will do a recursive loop to try to get the data until it's successful. But maybe it could be improved just to add a maximum of try of 5. Yeah, so that's it. And the get data, a kind of function, I load it whenever the component is mounted, but in that case, because I'm using React Hook, I'm kind of calling it under the use effect function. So this is the rendering method. In here, I'm taking the feeds I've received from the call and iterating for each of the Instagram feed to create like a swiper slide. So I'm kind of using the React swiper library for that. That's where that control the swiper slide come from. And then depending on the media type, whether it's a video or image, I'm kind of using the correct control, whether it's a video or else I'm just displaying an image. And then finally, just having like a swiper parent control to which I'm passing the child swiper slides control to get the display that I've shown earlier in the demo. So one of the things that you need to bear in mind, that solution is currently using the Instagram Basic Display API which has the endpoint graph.instagram.com, and as the name kind of implies, it just allows you to do basic functionality like retrieving basic profile information, photos, videos from the user's Instagram account. So it's not very feature rich. And in case you might want to do something much more advanced, like allowing your user to engage within your app, maybe consider something like the what we call the Instagram Graph API. And the endpoint is a little bit different, graph.facebook.com. But for my scenario, the requirements was quite simple to just have the Instagram feed onto a SharePoint page with no advanced features. But the number one limitation, which is it has a limit of calls you can do per hour per user per app. That was something which I needed to find a solution around it, because if you have if you're planning to deploy the application for 500 users, for example, and if all of them wants to use the app at the same time, there's a high chance that it's not going to work 50% of the time. So what I've done is I've used a schedule Power Automate flow. Now there's a template if you want to go and check it out. It's called the Get Instagram Feed into SharePoint list. So Power Automate, if you create a flow and look for it, it will come up, and then you can use it and configure it to point to the correct SharePoint list. And you can set the schedule, even if you set it every 5 minutes, it's not going to reach the 240 calls per hour. 240 calls per hour limit. And the other advantage of using Power Automate flow, I'm using that template uses the independent publisher connector. So when you create a connection to the connector, you specify the access token, and in that way it kind of keeps the access token secure as well. And in the end, I'm just using some view formatting. View formatting in a list is just JSON mixed with HTML and CSS to kind of get the rendering as a picture I've shown in the slide on the right. So that kind of fulfill the requirements which the end user had. The disadvantage of using the view formatting was it doesn't support video tag, but again, it was not that major. And then the other one, we couldn't change the entire background color of this view web part to be transparent. Again, that was kind of minor because the background was white, so it wasn't an issue. And then by default, SharePoint doesn't allow us to render images from third-party domains, so you might have to update the HTML field security settings to allow images to display from the Instagram CDN. But again, I don't know whether that's going to be an issue, but otherwise you can amend the flow so that you can download the image into a column of tab image and amend the view formatting accordingly. Otherwise, the alternative could have been like use an Azure function to do the backend call on a schedule basis and using SPFx to improve the design. But for me, just a low code kind of solution kind of work in the end. So this is a list of references. If you want to look more into the Instagram basic display API documentation, as well as the Instagram graph API documentation, and see which one work. And I'll put a link to the independent publisher connector if you want to have a look. And I'll say thank you to Andre Large, because I've used one of these sample and simplified it to be able to achieve the grid-like structure. And and then in the link in the end is a blog post which recently got published, but it kind of go through the steps which you can go through to implement using a low-code solution. So that's it from me.
Thank you. That was fantastic demo. And again, there's a lot of hard work that went into this, many contributions. And also thank you for recognizing and working with the contributions of others. So that's wonderful. And again, everyone, please give a warm hand to Reshmee. It was her first presentation. There you go. Thank you, David. Now, speaking of first presentations, let's move on to Valeras, who's going to talk about using reusable IFramePanel control in your SPFx solutions. Valeras, it's all yours.
Hello, hello. Let me quickly share my screen then.
We can hear you. We can see you. It's all yours.
Yep. Thank you. Hello, hello. So, as I mentioned in the chat, adrenaline rush. Not usually speaking to a big crowd of specialists. So it's me. I'm Valeras. I'm software developer working at Macaw, currently based in Vilnius in Lithuania. Looking at my hashtags, basically, I try to cover what my hobbies is or expertise. I'm basically building things with SharePoint from SharePoint second version, 2003. So I'm one of those that still remember how it looked. And well, my credentials are on the bottom. And most of my career, I was also infrastructure engineer. So that's related to my example, actually, why I'm was a bit surprised to learn something new. So I will share it with you guys. So how it started for me, I usually not the one who is very good in ideas and always envy people to submitting samples in those repos. I usually just get one and upgrade. It's easier for me than to think on an idea. But someone asked for the help in issues, and it was like, can you help me just use SPFx control IFramePanel, which was not working. So I thought, why not? And started working on that one. And it was, for me as a developer, of course, it was not very complicated, and I won't be sharing much of the code because there is none. But result was pretty nice. I'm already using that quite extensively. So this is second part. This is how a description of implementation looks like in SPFx dev controls that is shared. And you can see it's not much of a code. It's just one component with some properties, which I used in the code. And this is my code. As you can see, it's those components that were primary button and IFramePanel, basically doing all the magic. And what magic is about. So what I didn't know, when you use iframe like this with this control, you could use that to display list item with all the controls on the top in the panel in the right side in SharePoint. Same can be used for the list. Same can be used for the preview of a document, even edit document. And I did try Power Apps, works as well. So now demo time, how does it look? It's a bit ugly, sorry about that. But let's check what is the setup of that part. For me, it's very simple one, just one URL you want to open with this button, right? So, and I posted just list edit form, for example. And I was really surprised that you can get all the actions here without any hassle out of the box. And it was really nice. I can also think a lot of solutions that you can use it. For example, well, when we were talking about search extensibilities and content query the part, for example, all those results that you use handlebars, you can use that for the document preview or edit item from the result, from the search result, which is neat. Sometimes people need that. So check this out. List preview. Oh, document preview. This is just opening document and you can edit it, saving. again, with all the ribbon, pretty nice. List view with all the edit grid view.
Sorry,
Yeah.
can you zoom a bit to zoom? So there's too much white space on the screen. Excellent, brilliant. Sorry for that.
So
Okay.
yeah, and okay. So and last one is Power Apps. Just adding Power Apps link also works quite nicely. So this is well, success story for me because one I got a new sample, and another I learned new things that from those controls, which I know they exist, but none of those I tried extensively, or just some of those. And IFramePanel is one of the things I discovered and really wanted to share. And that's basically it.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And for those of you who are wondering, hey, I want to contribute to the community. I just don't know where to get started. This is a great example of Valeras looking at the issues list in the PnP samples gallery, and then looking for, sometimes you'll see items marked as help wanted, as you can see this one here. You can actually volunteer. Anything that says help wanted is open for contributions. And the other thing too is we'll often mark things that are a bit simpler to get started as a good first issue. And that's what you see, the purple one there, good first issue. So if you're looking for inspiration, that's a great place to do. And Valeras, thank you for your demo. Again, everyone, please put your hands together for Valeras. It was his first presentation, and I hope we can see many more from both Reshmee and Valeras in the future. All right.
Yay!
Yay! Now let's give the floor to Siddharth, who's going to talk about Viva Connections adaptive card extensions to display daily insights based on ChatGPT OpenAI API. Try to say that 3 times fast.
Thanks, Hugo. Thanks, everyone. Today, I'm going to talk about an adaptive card extension where we can display daily insight with OpenAI API. This was one of the sample which I had collaborated and developed with Kunj also. So before I start the demo, a little bit about myself. I'm Siddharth Vaghasia. I am Microsoft MVP, and I love working on SharePoint, Teams app development, Power Platform, etc. I'm an active contributor in PnP, wherein I contributed various SPFx samples, Teams app samples, and sample script, etc. I would also like to introduce Kunj, who has collaborated with me. He is also a technical consultant and an expert in SharePoint Office 365. He is also an active PnP contributor, and these are some of the social handles through which you would be able to connect with him. So as I said, I'm going to talk about adaptive card extension to display daily insights based on ChatGPT OpenAI API. This is the URL to the repo where this sample has been contributed. It started with a kind of an idea on wherein when the OpenAPI, ChatGPT OpenAPI started appearing, people were finding different use cases, different ways to explore the OpenAPI. So this was one of my driving factor wherein I thought, let me just see what we can do with the OpenAPI. Ideally, we thought of having something wherein we can kind of create an adaptive card extension, which would use ChatGPT or OpenAI API to get the response and display them in the format, right? So the another driving factor is, like if we can make some use case out of it, it would be great. So what we did was we started with some prompt engineering to use the ChatGPT to see what kind of response it is giving. So we started with some of the prompts like, if they can give us fact of the day, if they can give us quote of the day, and programming tip or grammar tip, which we will see. And so we thought we can use this prompt engineering to make something usable, wherein rather than asking the user to send something to the OpenAPI, if we can basically go and pre-configure that prompt in our code and then send the make the request and then get the response back. So in terms of summary, this adaptive card extension solution can be configured to show different kinds of things. Like you can get quote of the day, you can get fact of the day, tip of the day, what has happened in today in the history, grammar tip, motivational words. So these are some of the prompts which are done. In terms of configurable options, we have an option to configure the API key, which is basically the OpenAI API key. Then you would be able to select different prompts and categories based on which the adaptive card extension would make the API call, get the response, and put it in the quick view format. You can also specify maximum token. This is very important because of the OpenAI rate limit. You know how much tokens you wanted to use for a particular request. For that, you would be able to configure it if you want, 250 tokens or 500 tokens to be used while it is returning the response. You can also configure the card title and description. This is basically in the card view. Now to kind of save some API request or some rate limit, what we have tried to implement is we have tried to implement this session storage so that once the API request has been made, we are storing that particular response in the local storage so that we are not making that API call again and again for that particular user. And then we also have a way for us to navigate to a next response. So if you want to get a next quote of the day or next fact of the day, then we gives an ability for user to basically navigate using next button from where they would be able to get the next response. And we have limited it to 5 to save basically the request. Now, a statutory warning, kind of, though this is a sample and we are using and calling the Open API from the client side as in sample, but it is not advisable to do it because your API key would be exposed to anybody who can use the network tab. So don't use this sample as in production, but try to create a middleware using Azure Function or some server-side APIs through which you would be able to do similar kind of usages. Okay, with that, let us go to the demo. So I had added this adaptive card extension here. So this is the one which we are talking about today. And if you see, it says, card title and card description. And once you click on explore, it will just basically give you the quote of the day. What you can do is you can click on next and you can get the next quote of the day. Also, this is what I was talking about for you to easily navigate and get next quote of the day for the user, right? In terms of configurable options, so if we go here, and if we edit it, so this is the maximum token, this is the API key, then which kind of model we are using to get the ChatGPT, so it is also configurable. And then these are the different prompts. So right now what we have seen was quote of the day, but if you need something like programming tip, meditation tip, health tip, life hack, that can also be done. And then what we want to display in the card primary text and card description, which is here. If you don't put anything, by default, it will show you your daily insights, and also it will say you to click to explore the quote of the day, where this quote of the day is dynamic based on the prompt being selected. So let's try to see probably programming tip. I'll just select it, I'll republish it. Let me refresh it once. So yeah, so it says a coding tip: when writing a code, use meaningful variable names. This will help you to make code easier to read and understand, right? And then again, you can click on next. So based on this, you would be able to use this adaptive card extension to give some customized daily insights to the user in your Viva Connection dashboard using ChatGPT Open API. Okay, so now let me go to the code to do code walkthrough. So it is a typical adaptive card extension. We have one card view and one quick view. And other than that, whatever we are doing, we are just using and dynamically replacing the content within the card view. First, let's start with the property pane configuration. So if you see here, these are the configurable properties which are available, including model, maximum token, API key, etc. One thing which we have to understand is the prompts. Okay, so basically, this is kind of a key value pair of the prompts and the actual text which we are sending to OpenAI. This for some of them it might be very similar, but just to make it in human readable format, some of them are changed. Like for example, grammar tip. The text to be displayed is grammar tip of the day. Motivational wisdom is motivational quote. So this is how kind of a simple prompt engineering we have used using ChatGPT to see what kind of responses it is getting based on what prompts we are sending to the OpenAI. So this is the kind of the response. This is the kind of the prompts which we are sending. Then let's come to the adaptive card extension. So this is where you have all the properties which are being set. Then in the extension, we have a state object wherein we are setting the insight, which is basically a string which is returned from the response. Then we have an error. If there is any error, to handle the error. And then there is a next counter, which is the number. On init method, it is a very similar init method where we are registering the card view and the quick view. This is the setup code which comes when we are creating an adaptive card extension. And then in init method, we are loading the data, right? So load data is the method which is basically doing all the magic of calling the OpenAI. If your API keys and everything are not configured, what it will do is it will just give you kind of an error saying there's a missing configuration. So please check with the admin. In terms of storage, we are getting the data from the storage key. If we find something, we are using that as an insight so that if the user is clicking again or if user is refreshing, it gives you the same insight which has loaded to save the request. If not, we are making an API. So basically, we are using completion API where we are passing the API key as in bearer token. And once we have that, we are passing model, we are passing the prompt, we are passing the temperature also based on how much accurate we need the response to be, and then the maximum token. Once we have the data, we are just setting the state to set it up in the insight and then putting it in the session storage. Now, next we are in the card view. So card view is very simple. The primary text and the description. What we have is we have the primary text. If it is configurable, then it will show it from the configurable property. If not, it will just display by default, daily insight and click explore to view the category which has been selected. This is how the description is made dynamic. Then what we have is we have one button which is basically which will load the quick view. And on card selection, we are just sending user to ChatGPT. This is just to make sure that user knows that if they want, they can use ChatGPT for here. Next, if you go to quick view, so quick view in the data part, what we have is we have basically So what we have is we are having insight, we have category, and we have the next counter, right? And this data is passed to the quick view template JSON, which we'll see in a while. But basically, it's just a pure text which has been returned from the response. Now, on click of next, what we are doing is we are again calling it. Again, as this was a sample, this can be added into a proxy or a service provider class and can be used from there, but ideally we just put it here for the simplicity of the sample. Again, we are calling the API, getting the next data and setting the state object to the choices which we got from the API, and then we are setting the same insight in the local storage key. So this is when the user clicks on the next button. Then in the template method, we are loading the template JSON. Template JSON is very basic. What it has is it has simple text block on top where we are showing the category. Then the text blocks where we are showing the insights, which is basically the response which we got from the OpenAI. And then we have the button, which will only be displayed if the counter is less than 5. So after 5, it won't display the counter. So yeah, that's it from the demo and from the code side. And as I said, this is a kind of a sample solution to explore the ChatGPT, but an use case can be used for us to use this in the Viva Connection dashboard to create an adaptive card extension using OpenAI. That's it from my side also, Hugo.
Thank you. And it's worth pointing out that Siddharth actually was a last-minute replacement for our speaker, so thank you for jumping in and doing an awesome presentation. The other thing to point out is the code sample that Siddharth is showing uses Code Tour, which is something that allows you to walk through the code yourself, which is what Siddharth used today. Some of our samples actually use Code Tour. If you are interested, we posted the link in the chat. All right, so thank you again to Reshmee, Valeras, and Siddharth for your awesome demos. Again, we always welcome new speakers, and if there was any example, Reshmee and Valeras, new speakers do an awesome job. Thank you. All right. If you want to give us feedback on the calls, you can rate the call content. You can provide input on how we can improve. You can go to ak.ms/community/calls/feedback. Maybe one of your feedback can be to have less slashes in our ak.ms. And you can join our official Discord server as well. That's right, we're using Discord because we are cool. You can share your knowledge, ask questions, and stay up to date on the latest trends in development. There's a QR code there, or you can go to aka.ms/community/discord. And we'd like to thank everyone. The recording will be available in 24 hours on the YouTube channel. Please don't try to download the recording because it's only available for Microsoft employees. You can follow us on Twitter at Microsoft365Dev or at Microsoft365M365PnP. And our next Viva Connections and SPFx call is going to be on June 15th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. Our next Microsoft 365 and Power Platform call is June 8th at 7 a.m. Pacific time. And of course, all the community calls are available at aka.ms/community/calls. And with that, thank you, everyone.